Hi, thanks so much for joining us for our webinar today, Highly Successful Restaurant Offers, What You Need to Know. Fishbowl has worked for years with restaurant industry clients to design and execute offers, and we've learned a lot along the way with our clients about what works and what doesn't work. So in this webinar, we thought we'd share some of the critical elements of a successful offer, important considerations when embarking on an offer campaign, and share some client case studies along the way. We're thrilled to have with us one of our clients, Glenn Drasher. He's the Senior Director of Marketing at Perkins Marie Callender, who will also share how his team is working to create more relevant and successful offers for their guests. Glenn has been at Perkins since 2011, around the same time that Perkins and Marie Callender became a Fishbowl client. Prior to working at Perkins, Glenn worked at Famous Dave's, Buffets Incorporated, and Carlson Companies. We are also happy to have with us Liz Frasino from Fishbowl. She's a delivery partner and has been with Fishbowl for about 5 years. Liz manages a team of Fishbowl marketing consultants and works to help our clients leverage data-driven approach to their restaurant marketing. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Liz.
Great, thanks Heidi. So just a little bit more detail on the agenda of what we are planning to cover today. So our plan today is to review the full life cycle of offer creation. So from picking your offer type to creative best practices to distribution and measurement. Along the way, as Heidi mentioned, we'll review some quick client case studies to help highlight and really drive home our discussion points. Finally, we'll wrap up spending a few minutes talking through the tool our clients have used to get all of the great data we'll be reviewing today, Promotions Manager. And Promotions Manager is a Fishbowl solution that makes it easy to design, deliver, and track your offers and promotions by assigning unique codes to offers and members. But before we get started, first things first. So we are definitely going to go through and provide some best practices in this webinar. But really the first best practice is testing, and it's something that I talk to with all of the clients that I work with and all of the consultants here at Fishbowl. Is always a key point to drive home is test, test, test. We have found these best practices to be true for a majority of our clients. But all of our clients are different and all of their guests are different. So something that works for one brand may not work as well for others. So as you're thinking about best practices, definitely feel free to build your own bank of best practices that are true to your brand by testing every time you do a campaign. You really don't want to miss out on an opportunity to learn more about your guests. So as you're starting to think about your offer, you'll want to think through a couple of key things. The first one is identify your goal. Are you hoping to drive traffic? Are you hoping to drive new traffic or repeat traffic? Do you want to drive trial of a new product? Do you want to increase guest size? Make sure that you have this goal, whatever it may be, clearly defined from the start so you know what you're measuring against at the end. Second thing to keep in mind is keep it simple. You don't want to get bogged down on a really complicated offer. So make sure that you're keeping your restrictions simple, clear and concise, especially if you are just starting your testing journey. You want to make sure that you're going out and testing a very clear and straightforward offer and not complicating it with a lot of restrictions and criteria. Next, make sure that you switch it up. So even if you're tried and true offers, sometimes they can lose their punch after a while. They can start to become not as effective. So really keep an eye on your metrics, and when you see a dip, go ahead and try out a new offer. But make sure that you make it different enough from your go-to offer so you don't confuse your guests. So if you always do a BOGO, maybe do a $1 off. So it's a completely separate offer type than what your guests are used to. Finally, go ahead and be aggressive. We typically see that the stronger the offer, the better the performance. So don't be afraid to be aggressive with the offers that you're testing. But if you're really hesitant, which a lot of our clients are, go ahead and either try a pilot offer, so test it out in a sample location or a sample DMA before you roll it out system-wide. Or if you are using our Promotions Manager product, you can set the use of the coupon to be single use, so you don't have to worry about it going viral. And here is our first case study. We had a client that was wondering, which offer really drives the highest net sales per member. So they went ahead and tested 3 offers: a BOGO free entree, a $5 off 15, and a BOGO 50% entree. So you can see that there's varying degrees of aggressiveness here. And what they found was that the higher number of redemptions came from the most aggressive offer, the BOGO free entree. And that higher number of redemptions offset the greater dollar discount. So even though this offer was more aggressive than the others, that was okay because it brought more people in the door. So they were able to actually, this offer had the highest net sales of all the offers they tested. And a quick side note here, a lot of times when you're testing, you're going out and you want to answer a very specific question. But along the way, you may get some other interesting tidbits, like in this particular client here. So through this testing, they also found out that nearly 30% of all 5 off 15 offers were redeemed during lunch hours, compared to 23% of the BOGO offers. So again, another learning that maybe they weren't looking for, but because they went ahead and tested, they got a lot of great data around which offers work best around certain times. So just some additional data points to keep in mind when you're deciding your offer type. We looked across all of our Promotions Manager clients and we analyzed 15.2 million redemptions, which is crazy, and which totals 650 million in sales. And through all of that data, we found that the free item and BOGO offer types drove the highest redemption rate, while the percent off and amount off offers drove a higher average check and lower average discount. So if your goal is to drive traffic on a particular day, a free item offer might be a good place to start. But if you want to increase your check, a percent off offer might be right for you. And again, it really all goes back to that goal that you identified at the start. So now that you've figured out your offer, it's time to go ahead and think about your creative. So here are some things to keep in mind when you're thinking about putting that creative together. The first, keep it clean and simple. We'll show you an example on the next page of a client's dramatic change and what impact that had on results for them. Make sure that your font size is large and legible. You want to make sure that you're not getting too fancy in your fonts, especially when it comes to things like the restrictions or details around the offer. You want to make sure that those are very clearly stated and visible to your guests. A lot of times clients that I work with, they get hung up on using a lot of branded fonts, which is fine. But when you're talking about your coupon and your offer, make sure that that font is legible and large. Next, put the offer in the email versus on a jump page, and make sure that that offer is above the fold. So we did a test with one client and we found that having the offer on the email versus on a jump page, we saw a 4% lift in redemptions and a 13% lift in net sales, which is great. Finally, make sure that it's mobile friendly. More than 2/3 of emails are read on a mobile device, so you really want to make sure that your email and your offer can easily be read on a mobile, and that the user can take action on their mobile. So make sure from a store perspective, someone can come in with an email or an offer on their mobile device and redeem it in store. Some other things on here, just things that you probably already think about, but make sure using the offer in the subject line and making use of the preview text. So there's an example here. You'll see that the subject line exclusive sneak peek, but the preview text, which is the text that displays in addition to the subject line, you can have a little bit more space to to call out what the content of that email is. So make sure that you are utilizing that to get engagement and to entice your members to open. And then we talked about using fonts that are large and legible. Make sure that for restrictions, that's the case as well, and that you're putting those restrictions next to the barcode so there's no confusion over how the offer can be used and when it can be used. So this is our next client spotlight. It's from Mazios. So Mazios was looking to increase their engagement through creative changes to their email template. So you'll notice this example here that we're showing on the screen. This was their quote-unquote old example. So you'll notice that there's a lot of content in there. The offer is a little bit lower down on the page. It's a little bit scrunched. But now when we look at the new email creative, which we just showed, which is the one with the larger blue-purple background, you'll notice that it's a lot cleaner. It isn't as cluttered. The font is clean, it's easy to read. That offer really stands out. You can see it's very clear, 5 off $20 offer there. So these changes led to a 203% increase in click-through rate. And while opens aren't directly related to creative, Mazios did see a 20.5% increase in open rates with this new creative, indicating perhaps that members, maybe they noticed the change, they were more inclined to open future messages. So a great next step here would be to test a cleaner coupon layout in the message, since we know that that works better based on our last slide that we went through. And I think that's a really key point when you're thinking about testing, is that testing never ends. So you'll test one thing, you'll get your results, that will then become your new your control, and then you'll test something else. You want to keep optimizing your email creative, your offers, your program, so testing should never stop. So now that your offer is set and you have your creative in a good place, it's time to think through the user experience. And this really is a critical step, so you want to make sure that you walk through the entire guest experience to help identify any potential obstacles or things that could be simplified, like offer restriction text. So when you're thinking about this, think through sending the message to yourself. Do you get it in your inbox? Can you click on, can you read through the message? Is it clear? Can you click on everything appropriately? Are the links going to the right places? What happens when you print out the message? Is the offer, does that print on that first page, or is it split between 2 pages? Is that going to cause confusion with your guests? Think about sharing it with somebody that hasn't been working on the project. I know a lot of times when I'm working on a campaign, I'm so close to it, it's helpful to have a fresh set of eyes, take a look at the content, take a look at the links, take a look at everything about that email or that piece of creative to make sure that I'm not missing something. And then if you can, go ahead and walk through the actual redemption process at a location. So try to emulate the whole process as much as possible. So can you redeem it? Are there any issues? Are you purchasing the right things? What might a guest come in and where might there be confusion, either from the coupon or from the server perspective, on how that offer should work? So here we have another client spotlight. So here we had one client, their free appetizer offer was repeatedly rejected for not complying with restrictions. So because this client used Promotions Manager, we were able to take a look further at what those rejections were, why this offer was rejected. After that investigation, we found that 90% of their rejections were because a guest ordered a flatbread from the menu. So after walking through the user experience and taking a look at how the menu was designed and how the offer was set up, we came to realize that guests thought the flatbread was considered an appetizer, and that's where that confusion was. So because we knew this and we were able to provide this context to the client, they went ahead and changed the offer to a free appetizer or flatbread, and that resulted in a 66% decrease in overall offer rejections. So once you've tested and completed your troubleshooting, now it's time to get the offer out the door. Think about more than just email too, right? So you've already done most of the work. You've identified the offer. You've identified what the message and the content should be. You have your creative. So you really want to get the biggest bang for your buck if you can. So when you're thinking about this, think about other channels that you can distribute this offer on. So that might be social media. That might be an SMS or a text program. Maybe it's in print in a direct mail piece. Maybe it's on your mobile app or in store. Maybe you want to push it or partner with a coupon site like Groupon. Whatever it is, think about what other channels that you have, what other touch points with your consumers might this offer make sense for, and consider how you can distribute this offer across those channels. So here we have two client spotlights that we're gonna go over. The first one is a client that used offers to incentivize other behaviors that benefited their business. So they use different offers for different channels to drive different actions. So they had one offer that was on Yelp to encourage check-ins. They used another offer via Facebook that encouraged their audience to sign up for an SMS club. So also think about, does it make sense to use the same offer across channels, or do you want to change that offer based on the action that you're looking for your guests to take? The second example here is a client tested distributing the same offer in print, email, and social media, and found that offers redeemed in social media resulted in a 5% higher average check than email and a 1% higher average check than in print. So again, really testing your offer across channels, making sure that you are identifying which channels are going to deliver you the best ROI, and then continuing to optimize each of those channels. So thinking about multi-channel distribution, we went back and looked at our promotions manager clients, and we analyzed more than 13 million redemptions from clients that distributed the offer on more than just email. So with this, we found that offers distributed across channels drove a 55% increase in redemptions and a 37% increase in sales from redemptions compared to offers distributed just in email. So really, when you are thinking about your offer, go ahead and think about putting it on multiple channels, because you can see the great results that gets you. So definitely you want to think about distributing your offering more than just email, but you also want to be strategic about your touch points. Guest expectations are changing. Your guests are increasingly expecting your communication to be more relevant to them, to be more personal to them. So you want to really think about reducing the number of times you distribute an offer to your entire audience. You want to get away from that kind of batch and blast mentality as best you can. I know that as marketers, there'll always be certain things that we want to distribute to our entire marketable database, and we're definitely not saying to never do that. I think the point here, though, is to think about, does every single message have to go to every single person in your database? Or can you start to segment your database and really increase the amount of personalized and targeted offers you send based on the information that you have on your guests? This really creates more relevant offers, which leads to things like increased open and click-through rates, a stronger sense of loyalty, so guests get a sense that your brand aligns better with who they are. And it could have an impact on your overall audience size, right? Because as you're more relevant with your members and you're delivering them content that makes sense to them and is important to them, they're less likely to unsubscribe. So they will want to stay in your program, which means that your total marketable database will continue to grow because you're keeping people engaged in your program versus having them leave because the content isn't relevant to them. So our next client spotlight really showcases how one client used the data on their guests to really narrow down the distribution of their offer to the most relevant group. So in this case, we had a national full-service sports restaurant that found that female guests made up a third of their guests, but that 56% of them only dined one time within the past year, and when they dined, they had above average checks. So there's a lot happening in that sentence. So basically, they found that females were coming in infrequently, but when they did come in, they were great guests. So the client really wanted to focus on how can they get this group in more. So they went ahead and designed an offer specifically with this audience in mind and sent that out. And that very targeted offer had a 78% increase in redemption rate, an average check $5 higher than the control, and an increase in frequency. So again, using the data that you have on your guests, use that to tailor their messages, because the results will pay for themselves. So speaking of segmented offers, our next case study is from Perkins and some interesting learnings they got from sending targeted offers. So Glenn, I will kick it over to you to walk us through this one.
Well, thank you, Liz. And I'd like to start out by thanking Fishbowl for inviting Perkins to participate in today's call and sharing some of our email experiences. Well, in the first case study, our challenge was how much better do targeted offers and messaging perform? And Promotions Manager has enabled strategic targeting of our guests based on past purchase behavior. And one way to optimize engagement is targeting those eClub members who have indicated an interest in a specific content. So we use check level detail to tie an email address to the menu items that they've ordered in the past. Well, Perkins has a bakery that features fresh baked pies, and Promotional Manager has enabled us to target guests who've ordered pies in the past and compare the results to those who've not ordered in the past. Let's take a look at the results. Well, as you would expect, the version segmented to only include pie purchasers perform much stronger than the non-segmented version, with an open rate of over 300% and a redemption rate of over 1,000% versus the non-segmented version. And it was not a surprise that pie users responded better, but the key was to be able to identify those who had ordered pies in the past, which Promotions Manager enabled us to do. So moving forward, we're going to broaden our audience to include members who have purchased other bakery items to gauge relevance, and to apply the same past purchase segmentation strategy to future offers, again to increase relevance with the guest. Another benefit, and Liz touched on this earlier, was that as our organization became more comfortable with LSM e-blasts, the volume of emails out increased. And we wanted to avoid overwhelming our guests with e-blasts that weren't of interest to them and would cause unsubscribes to go up. Another advantage of strategic targeting is that you can cut down on the volume of emails going to guests that would have less interest in the content. And a great example of this is a kids coupon going to people who don't have kids in the home. And it just becomes clutter at that point. And we can manage this much better with Promotions Manager. And it's taken us a while to build up our database with the check level detail so that we can make these 6 segmentations. It's taken us pretty close to a year to give us a number of options. So it doesn't happen initially, but as you build that database, more and more opportunities come up. So we'll give it back to you, Liz.
Great, thank you. And I think, Glenn, that's a really important point, is it does take time to build the data that you have, but keep knowing that, I think it's really important today as marketers to think about what is our segmentation strategy, or what do we want it to be? What data do we have currently, or what will we need to go out and collect or start collecting, and really think through that. So you can start the data collection now. So in a month, 6 months, a year, you'll have a large database of information on your guests, so you can go ahead and segment in numbers that make sense or that are worth it. So very quickly, switching gears, going back to distribution, one last thing here that we wanted to touch on is send reminders. So your offer may have caught your guest's attention, but maybe it wasn't at the right time or place. So really use reminders to increase that engagement of your offer. So you can send reminders to people that have opened your email. If you have promotions manager, you know who has redeemed that offer, so you can send a reminder to people that haven't redeemed to let them know 2 days left, 1 day left, last day, create that sense of urgency to drive that visit in. You could also do things like extend the expiration date and really position it as a benefit for being part of the program. So offer extended, loyal members only, that kind of a thing. Not only does it allow you to drive some more redemptions and more visits into your restaurant, but it also gives your guests a sense of value or worth. They find value in being in the program. They're getting a special perk. And while you may be hesitant to send reminders because it increases touch points, which we just talked about, sometimes it may be worth it, like in our next client spotlight here. So in this particular case, we had a client that tested an offer to 3 groups. So group 1 received the offer once, group 2 received the offer twice, and group 3 received the offer 3 times. And what we found was that without seeing a significant increase in unsubscribes rates, group 3, the group that received the offer 3 times, they had a 14% increase in redemption rate and a 10% increase in net sales per member. So in this case, the increased number of touch points paid off for this client. So now that your offer has run its course, it's time to go back and measure your results and think of ways to optimize for next time. So when you're going through and looking at your results, really make sure that you're looking at all metrics when you're evaluating. So your offer may have had a lot of redemptions, but maybe your average check size was below average. Make sure that you're looking at all of these different metrics, because different metrics in the user flow will tell you different things about the performance of your offer and where you can optimize next time. So for example, an above average open rate, but a below average click-through or redemption rate may indicate that the subject line was misleading. So you caught a lot of attention, you got your members to open the email, but when they opened the email, the offer, the content of the email wasn't relevant to them, so they didn't want to take further action on that. Also, when you're looking at your metrics and you're kind of evaluating things, make sure that you keep your original goal in mind and that you measure performance off of that. So if your original goal was to simply drive traffic, maybe average check isn't the best sole KPI to use. You definitely want to look at all of your metrics, but make sure that you're going back to that original goal when you're evaluating whether the offer was successful or not. And finally, we recommend keeping a database of all of your test results so that you can continue to learn about your audience and optimize your future campaigns. This also helps you repeat the same tests in the future and wasting a testing opportunity. And I think when you're thinking about this test results or this testing bank, it also will provide an easy way for you to share your results with other key stakeholders in the organization. So, testing is really important and you get a lot of great insights from it, and it may change how you want to send your campaigns or the offers that you're doing. And I think by sharing your results within your organization, people will understand why you're making the pivot or why you're changing some things, because you'll have the data to back it up versus, you have to field all these different questions from your boss or from operations about, well, how come you're doing this offer? This other offer always worked great for us. You now will have data to point to and say, well, actually our BOGO offer is more successful, it's more aggressive, but look at the sales that it drives. And finally, you can pull metrics yourself and you can take a look at sales numbers and open rates and click-through rates and unsubscribes and all of those things. But it's also really important to make sure that you're getting feedback from the field. Your metrics may tell you one thing and you may think that the offer performed exceptionally well, but maybe there are some things that happened in store that could be improved upon next time. So was it easy to redeem? Was it clear? Were there questions with the guests and the servers? Are there things from an operational and store perspective that you could fine tune for your next time around? So here we have another great case study from Glenn around some changes they made to their anniversary offer. So Glenn, I will kick it back over to you.
Okay, and our challenge for this case study was how can we increase anniversary offer redemptions. The Perkins eClub anniversary was originally intended for wedding anniversaries and included an offer for 2 slices of pie. Well, the results were not competitive with our other triggered blasts, so we were looking to make some adjustments. We evolved the program to include all members and reset the anniversary to the members' join date. And when we began testing, a resend offer to non-redeemers, and then we changed the coupon to a 15% off coupon based on the previous performance of that offer. And we saw some pretty significant results. We can go to the next. So regarding the resends to non-redeemers, we increased redemptions by 58%, which is fairly significant. The average number of offers redeemed each month doubled after the offer changed. So that's kind of a mission accomplished in terms of what we set out to do. Our average monthly net sales for the offers increased by over 250%, while the average discount decreased by 53%. So that's sales up and costs down, and again, is just a very strong result. And then moving forward, we want to optimize our subject line to improve our open rate. We did see a slight drop in open rates, and so we're addressing that with a couple techniques in the subject line and trying to get back up to the previous level. And Liz, back to you.
Great, thank you. So, how did we get all of this great data? We went through a number of data points in this webinar. We had a number of great client case studies around some testing that they had done. But where have we gotten all of this data? So we've sprinkled a few tidbits about Promotions Manager throughout our webinar today, but really wanted to spend our last few minutes talking about this solution. So Promotions Manager is a software solution that closes the loop on offers through a real-time integration with your POS, your point of sale. So this integration, plus the fact that Promotions Manager assigns unique codes not only to offers themselves but also to members, allows you to get detailed campaign results to answer your questions about promotion strategy. So if we take a look at this next slide here, we take a look at the flow, a quick workflow of how Promotions Manager works. So if we start at 12 o'clock noon with marketing, so marketing would define and publish their offer and promotions. You'll notice no more IT involvement, which I think is fantastic from a marketing standpoint. I know that sometimes, that you have to get in line with IT and you have to ask them to create multiple codes if you want to do clean testing, and sometimes it can take a couple of days to get that done. So with Promotions Manager, the control is really in the marketing team's hand. So you are able to go ahead and set up your own offers when you need them, how you want them. You're able to create different codes so you can actually do a clean A/B test if needed, which I think is fantastic and is one of the many great values of Promotions Manager, but I digress. So marketing, you would go in and you would set up and publish your promotion. You know, the next pieces are probably what's happening today. So you distribute your offer through channels, email, multi-channel, whatever it may be. Your customer gets that. They bring that promotion into the store or the location, goes to the wait staff where they enter in that code into the POS. And then what happens is, because Promotions Manager has that real-time integration with the point of sale, it actually captures all of the check level detail for that particular check. So it captures what was purchased, what the day is, what time of day is it, and it sends all of that information up to the cloud. And that is where the validation happens. So in Promotions Manager, you would have set up all of those restrictions. The check level detail, in that validation process, we're going to go through and say, does this check meet the requirements of how this offer was set up in Promotions Manager? It does it automatically. So no longer do you have to have a server going through and reading all of the tiny restrictions on the offer and going back to the guest and saying, well, it's not, this offer is only valid on Saturday and it's Sunday. So Promotions Manager does that for you, which is fantastic. And then once the offer is approved or denied, the server will get a message back of what the status is, and they'll go about their business, carry out their day, close out that check. But the last step here, data and insight, is also what's really interesting about Promotions Manager from a marketing level. So because you're getting all of that check level detail, you really have a great source of insight and segmentation. So you know what offers are performing. You can get a clean read on offer performance, not only in the sense of redemption rate and ROI and things like that, but you also can get a sense of what people are purchasing with each offer type. You can get a sense of what time of day are they coming in and redeeming it, or how many days after this offer was sent out are they coming to redeem it. So there's really a lot of great data that you can use to tailor your program, again, just to start that segmentation, to start that testing calendar of yours using Promotions Manager and the data that's available from there. So here, this is just a quick snapshot of a dashboard. So in Promotions Manager, there are a ton of quick, easy to digest dashboards on your promotion. So you can go in, log in on yourself. It is real time. So you are able to go in and see recent transactions that have come in, kind of what's happening in store around a promotion. You can also go in to each promotion and see, how is it performing in terms of the number that have been redeemed or the number that have been rejected. What were the sales numbers for it? So, very easy to use dashboards that you or someone on your team can use to pull metrics themselves versus having to rely on finance or a reporting team to pull for them.
Liz, I'll make a comment here if I can.
Sure.
Perkins is a franchise organization, and when we rolled out a LSM email system, some of the feedback we got from our franchisees was extremely positive in that they can go into the same dashboards and look at their stores and see who's redeeming, who's not, what offers are working and what's not. And it was a big benefit to them. So from a franchise standpoint, there's a lot of benefits there as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Glenn. Next here we have, just a screenshot of how you create the offer. So again, easy step-by-step process to go ahead and create your offer. You can determine what the offer type is. You can determine what the restrictions are. Again, no more reliance on IT or another department to create this and code this into the POS for you. So it really gives you a lot of freedom as a marketer to set up offers how you want them, when you want them. Another great thing here is that you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the restrictions of your offer. So you can determine if you want the offer to be used only one time, or you can set the offer to be used an unlimited number of times if you do want the offer to go viral. You have that control. You can have the offer valid only at one location, or you can have it system-wide. Things like, you only want it valid during the week, Monday through Thursday. You don't want it valid on the weekends. You can set that up here. You only want it valid during lunchtime. So you can set up here, when it's valid from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., let's say. You have all of that control within Promotions Manager, so it is really easy to use, and it walks, as you're creating the offer, the tool walks you through what that offer will look like, and it gives you a sample on the right here of kind of how you're building out the offer and what it will read like, which is I love that because it allows me to check the offer as I'm going, and does this make sense? Is it logical? Do I need to go back and change this? So again, really easy to use and a fantastic tool.
Great. Thank you so much. That was excellent. Thanks, Liz. Thanks again, Glenn. And if you are interested to learn more about Promotions Manager and you are already an existing client of Fishbowl, please reach out to your account team. If you are not and are interested to learn more, please email enterprisesales@fishbowl.com to learn more about that. Or you can also check out our website, fishbowl.com. There is a Promotions Manager section of the website. Thanks to everybody for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.